Welcome everyone to the City Council meeting for the City of Evans, October 19th. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Rudy?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark?
Here.
Councilmember Spear?
Here.
Councilmember Johnson? Councilmember Neal?
Here.
Councilmember Castle?
Here.
Next item on the agenda is audience participation. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address City Council on any item not on the agenda this evening? Please step up to the podium, state your name and address. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi there. So my name is Anthony Talcott, 3520 Poppy Avenue. So I don't think I have a ton of time to get into all the specifics or the context or the data that I'd like to for it, but it seems to be a really big issue with a lot of the traffic citation policies that we have here in the city. I started going over them recently because it happened to somebody close to me, but they seem to be really high numbers for what a lot of people in the city could afford. It seems to be something that's disproportionately affecting a lot of the lower income residents, and it's something that I was kind of wondering if I could address the city council on.
Yeah. Please.
Well, I just think that they need to be lowered, or that some kind of provision needs to be taken to make it more, I don't know, scalable. I don't know if that's something that we can handle at the city level, but it's something I thought I'd bring up. I mean, just to give you guys an example, and again, if I start going over my time limit, feel free to let me know. Someone close to me was going 35 at a 25. They were speeding. That's all there is to it. But there are no children around. There are no pedestrians around because it's the middle of the day. There was no traffic nearby. They're a careful driver. They've never once had an accident. They've never once received a citation in the past. And they received a nearly $200 ticket for it. Now, they don't have a lot of money. They are actually working 3 jobs at the moment because they're trying to get out of their parents' place. And they really just couldn't afford to take a hit like this. They're budgeting responsibly. They're saving responsibly. But, you know, with the economic stuff that's going on because of the pandemic recently, it's kind of tough to keep that stuff in check. The police officer in question, I actually did some background research on it, but he's apparently with the police department here in town. He's known by a lot of people who actually work with him as a quote-unquote ticket Nazi. He actually ended up putting her down as going 36 when she was going 35, just to eke out a little bit extra. It seems like a really corrupt practice to me. But even that stuff aside, like, just the rates that a lot of these citations end up getting put at just seem way more than they were really needed. I mean, she wasn't affecting anyone else. She got confused because it used to be a 35. It just recently got changed to a 25, I guess, which is why she was going 35. And, I mean, it just seems wrong. It didn't protect anybody. It didn't help anybody. She wasn't endangering anybody. There was no risk to anyone else. Now, I'm not here to appeal on her behalf or anything like that. That's a completely separate issue. She already paid off the ticket. But I would like to try and make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen to other people who are in the same sort of situation, because it seems like a really devastating thing to have to look at, especially for people who aren't making that much or who are holding down multiple jobs. Like, that's easily a day, 2 days income right there. So, again, I really do want to thank you guys for your consideration and time, but that's something I wanted to bring out.
Thank you. And I'll touch on it a little bit. Did you email me with that?
Email you?
I got an email from somebody about our fines for speeding.
I don't believe
that was you. So I did get another one from somebody. So I did have Chief Brandt look it up, and we are the same, if not just a hair lower than all the surrounding communities around us. Actually, that same ticket would have cost you more in Greeley.
Well, that's also more surprising me.
Yeah.
Like, just the fact that it's lower than a lot of other cities doesn't really make it better, if you'll forgive me saying so.
This I'd have to turn to one of my city attorneys here, but I know if somebody is struggling a little bit with money at that time, you always can show up to court for your ticket.
Well, the issue is that showing up to court has its own set of costs involved, right?
Agreed, but I think you can also try and talk to the attorney or the judge, correct me if I'm wrong, and they could probably set you up on a payment plan, I would assume, even for he does that.
Well, and I understand that that's an option as well. Not to cut you off, sir, but My issue is with the fact that it doesn't really seem to be doing any good. I mean, it just seems to be extorting people of their money for something where they haven't necessarily done anything wrong. And I get that in a lot of cases, like speeding is dangerous. That's why we have speed limits. But in a case like the one that I just laid out for you guys, I mean, the officer in question didn't help anybody. He didn't protect anybody. He didn't serve anybody doing that. He just issued
But
a
it
fine
might
to
if
somebody
that
who didn't.
person doesn't speed anymore.
What's that?
It might if that person doesn't speed anymore.
You didn't realize she was
I don't
speeding.
want to go get another $200 ticket. Then it did help, in my eyes.
But even if she's going 35, she wasn't about to hit anybody. She wasn't posing any sort of threat to anybody else, and there were no other civilians around. That's what's kind of got me a little worked up about this, and you'll have to forgive me if I seem a little heated.
No, you're doing this fine.
But and we might be lower than other cities. Like I said, I've only done cursory research, and it's really that great.
Doing great.
But that seems like a lot of money to take from somebody for a simple mistake. Even if you put them on a payment plan, that's still money that you're taking out of their paycheck over time. So, again, that's just something I wanted to kind of address to you guys, and I know for a fact that she's not the only one. There are plenty of other people who've had the same issue. And I don't believe I emailed you about it. I'm sorry if there's a confusion there. I did email the chief of police about it.
I got another one from somebody else.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I want to address to you guys. I don't know if I need to come back at some point with more data or a petition or something, because I'm not really sure how these
You're
sorts of things
always
work.
welcome back. Those are kind of, and like I said, we're a little bit lower. We can discuss it, but welcome to come back and talk about it. I don't think it's ever in malice to find somebody that much money. I think it's kind of, hey, learn your lesson. Don't do it again kind of thing. Like Councilmember Spear just whispered in my ear. They didn't hurt anybody that time they were speeding, but what about the next time?
Well, if you do hurt somebody,
There's got to be a consequence.
but the problem is that she didn't make any actions. She didn't hurt anybody. Nobody's life was put at risk. Nobody's rights were infringed.
Well, I don't want to. I appreciate you being here. We can go back and forth. I'd be happy to talk to you outside of council more about it if you'd like to. Happy to do that. If you want to go to my city manager, he can get you my cell phone number.
Gotcha. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, it'd be great. Thank
Not
you.
at all. Absolutely.
Would that be
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
not
you.
a problem. Would that be something I could do now, or should I wait until later?
No, you can do it right now.
All right.
And if you don't have a radio gig, your voice would make a
I
nice.
said,
I was thinking
we
the same
started talking and I was like,
Great
great.
voice. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Got a great voice. I know.
You like the
Good stuff you're talking about. I know. I'm like, wow. Don't you?
Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address city council on any item not on the agenda this evening? What up, dude?
I thought Drew was.
Anyone
gonna talk.
online? Anyone have any changes to the agenda, city clerk?
Yes, I recommend that we defer executive session until after the ERA meeting.
Okay. Anyone else have any changes to the agenda?
that we were removing.
I'm sorry, and we are removing item, new business item number 3, consideration of resolution number 13-2021.
Great, thank you. And I just will also note for the record, item 2 on the agenda will be a public hearing. It was noted that way. It's just not written that way if anybody has our document. If there are no other changes to the agenda, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, consent agenda. Item 1, approval of the October 5th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, new business. Public hearing. Consideration of 2022 operating and capital budget for resolution number 26-2021, adopting the 2022 budget and ordinance number 751-21, budget appropriations, first reading. I'll open the public hearing here.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, members of council. This will be the second public step following the work session at your last meeting about the proposed 2022 budget. Of course, our budget covers all of our operating expenses and our capital expenses as well as our revenues. This budget has been developed for a number of months by our staff, and then prior to the council work session was also reviewed and discussed by our, which is why I will introduce our Finance Director Jackie Trout with an overview of the budget that is slightly abbreviated from the work session at your last meeting. So tonight our presentation covers the goals of the budget and the highlights of revenues and expenditures and the proposed enhanced service levels for next year. I'll just note that, as always, it's our first priority to present a balanced budget where our revenues are at least equal to our expenditures, and that describes the budget that we have for you this evening. I'll also mention, just for the public, that we do have hard copies of the budget available. The council has been presented with hard copy budgets with all of the relevant detail. So that's part of our process as well. And with that, I will turn over to Jackie Trout.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. I was glad you mentioned this is an abbreviated version. This is not the full work session piece, even though it looks similar. But I am honored to present tonight just that summary information that is your 2022 capital budget. So a lot of hard work does go into this over the last few months. It really is a culmination of work from finance staff and other department staff, and we couldn't present to you a quality budget without that information from department staff that really inform us what their needs are, what they're seeing and know is coming down the line for the future years. So we're incredibly appreciative of the process we have here and the collaboration that finance was able to receive from other departments. We were also proud to build on some of the progress made in the 2021 steps. When we closed out the 2020 year, we took a breath and realized that the economy hadn't been quite as bad to us as we had initially projected. Council was really quick to act to secure the workforce, bring back merit increases for staff, help the good staff that we have here at the city stay. That was incredibly important. We also looked at ways to invest those monies into deferred maintenance items. We took a hard look at things that needed to be addressed now that would be more costly if we had waited. So we really made good strides in the current year to put some of that money to work. That really set the stage for what we were able to accomplish in the budget before you tonight. Revenue stabilization was really crucial as we looked at ways to smooth the revenues and resources coming into the city so that we were avoiding some of the peaks and valleys in those outer years and ensuring that we had the best handle on the available money that we could. We continued to work with those departments to identify their highest operational and staffing needs. This budget does incorporate a number of staffing and supplies and services increases that can help the service they provide to the residents. The classification and compensation study we heard from council, the results of that study needing to be included in the budget, those are also included in what's before you. And really, we strengthened our long-term capital budget process as well. So we're continuing to evolve this process and making sure that we're looking not just at the capital projects for next year, but the 5 years past as well. As Jim mentioned, our budget is balanced in the 5-year period in the general fund. We're maintaining our current levels of service with some increases due mostly to some of the staff positions that we're adding back to the budget. We're getting closer month by month to restoring our operations to pre-pandemic levels, which is very exciting. A couple notes here. As we look at the budget tonight, we do still have the historic Evans Fire Protection District contributions in there as we await final resolution. And we also are not next year's budget on ARPA projections either. So we will continue to look at ways to best use those funds and bring that to council for future guidance on how to invest those properly. With that, general fund revenues are sitting just shy of $16 million. And as I mentioned, we are marching towards recovery continuously, encroaching carefully on that 2019 level as well. So once we get back to about that $16 million mark of general fund revenues, that will be a good signal to us as a city that we have recovered fully from the pandemic and oil and gas effects as well. You'll notice in those outer years to the right of the yellow line, projecting about a 2 to 3% annual increase in revenues as well. Sales tax is a large part of that, as well as many other factors that we had talked about in deeper revenue work, but we are balanced in the 5 years due in part to some of these revenue projections continuing to grow as well. We did have over $1.2 million of budget requests come in this year of the top critical needs identified by departments. Included in the budget tonight is a recommendation to fund about $722,000 of those. The personnel positions listed there, 2 of which are new, are deputy city clerk and an HR manager. The other ones are unfrozen positions, if you will, things that were originally identified in the 2020 budget we were unable to fill before we started to retract again. 1 additional police officer to our force, maintenance technicians, both in the streets and the parks department, our public works management analyst to help us further some of these major projects that we continue to work on, our recreation specialist, that's a current position that is needed to go full-time, and then part-time staffing in both emergency management coordinator role, as well as our neighborhood services seasonal staffing to help further those projects and that strategic and code enforcement. All of these costs in that $722,000 do include the equipment, the licensing, all of their budget. These are fully loaded costs for all of those positions, and also includes the lease for a summer day camp bus or van, as well as some on-call traffic engineering work for our engineering department. The unfunded amount of requests that came in was just shy of $500,000. I anticipate as we continue the next couple years' budgets, hopefully if we're continuing on that recovery path, that number will rise again as we look at ways to improve the services that we're providing to the community. With those budget additions, our general fund is projected to start the year at about $11.5 million and end the year just shy of $11 million. So we anticipate using about $800,000 of fund balance, due in part to $1 million usage of our general fund reserves for playground replacements among the city's parks. Also pointing out that net operating results and the orange net results line is the proof in numbers that you are balanced in the general fund for the 5 years with these additional items being included in the budget tonight. There were a handful of other requests outside of the general fund that are included in your citywide budget. There's an engineering technician or construction inspector that will be paid for out of the road tax fund as we further some of those road projects, a maintenance technician in our wastewater fund, as well as continuing to do the contract stormline jetting in the storm drainage fund. So those are all included in the budget as well, for a total of about $245,000. Reminder, we have a handful of items for asset management, those less than $100,000 shorter term project costs, all being recommended funded out of the general fund this next year, replacing some weight and cardio equipment in the rec center, carpet and paint replacements in various areas, mostly on the southern side of this building here, as well as replacing a riding mower for our parks department, replacing one of the most used and least valuable pieces of equipment for the parks department as well. Our general fund reserves, as we look at our breakdown for those, as we anticipate our ending fund balance for next year being just shy of that $11 million, we are holding, per council's direction, 50% of the prior year's operating expense. About $8 million there, and shown in green for the various purposes. If we have a sudden economic downturn, a loss of a major sales tax generator, a natural disaster, or if there's a development or investment opportunity council would like to proceed with, those $8 million are held aside for those various purposes. We did hear from council the desire to hold also an additional $2 million towards the police facility design. So we are also projecting that as well. So even with the 50% fund balance reserve and that additional $2 million, we still have about $600,000 additional fund balance that's not committed or reserved for those various purposes. Talked in more depth about the enterprise funds and the capital projects that these funds will be completing next year, but in total, each of these funds, you can see water, wastewater, and storm drainage have an ending cash balance a little bit less than their beginning cash balance. This is signifying that as we've built that cash balance over the past few years for these very necessary and impactful infrastructure projects, we are able to plan projects for either completion or to be started next year. A trend that you'll see in many of our funds this year, a lot of our road project funds will also be completing some very large road projects as well. So this is really the year of capital projects, in some respects, really putting some of those resources to use that these funds have been holding for very specific purposes. To that point, our capital projects are a little over $18 million for next year's planned citywide. We do have that $1 million of playground replacements at our city parks out of the general fund, and many of these other projects you'll see funded in more than one of the various funds. Street impact, road tax, and our street and food tax even go hand in hand in furthering some of our larger road projects like 23rd Avenue completion, the various components of 37th Street widening, Idaho Street, you'll see in a couple different areas. We also have some park design and construction plans at Arrowhead and our Tuscany Tract O section as well. Some really good progress there. And then in our Conservation Trust Fund, which is utilizing some of the lottery funds that we get, design on our Evans Ditch Trail, electrification of some of our parks equipment, and continuing some of our water smart landscaping features here at the community complex. So some really great projects. Not all of this will be done next year. Some of these are starting multi-year projects or phases of multi-year projects. But $18 million is a lot of work for the city to be planning for next year, really putting, again, a lot of these dollars to work for the community. In total, much of what I just talked about here illustrated by those net result lines. So our general fund investing hugely into our playgrounds, our enterprise funds into that necessary infrastructure to have those services available to residents. And those others are largely our parks and our road funds shown there too. Our ending fund balance citywide at the end of 2022 is about $34.8 million. So go down about $5 million with some of that capital funds and projects that we're looking to undertake next year. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions before you tonight. Is both the resolution to adopt the 2022 budget as well as the ordinance to appropriate those expenditure budgets in next year's 2022 budget. You also, as Jim mentioned, have the full copy of the budget document that we'll make available to the public and post on our website. Folks are welcome to grab a paper copy if they're here in the city building as well, that we'll make available after second reading.
Mayor, two more quick things. Jackie, would you mind introducing your key budget staff member who's here tonight? Or news?
Happy to introduce Cindy Yerby, who is here with us tonight. She came from a couple of months, brings an extensive sales tax auditing knowledge to our city, so she'll be a great asset in many realms, has a lot of great ideas, and has been really, really instrumental in helping to get this budget to the finish line. I think if not one, maybe both of our other finance members are also on tonight listening electronically. So I think they're open. I think we have one more.
So thanks to the team and also Mayor. Should the council decide to proceed with the budget ordinance on first reading and the resolution, we will begin kind of timing and planning for the recruitment of the new staff that would normally take place starting the first of the year. I'd like to informally request council's consent to really, again, like we did with the council upgrades, work with Jackie to identify some of the salary savings in this year's budget and start to recruit a few of those positions as soon as we can, because they're needed for projects that are already in progress. So if it makes sense to council to do that, we would just probably use a few $1,000s of this year's budget savings if we're fortunate enough to be able to hire folks by the first of the year. But I would like your awareness and consent to do that.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this item? Anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to this item? Questions of staff? Questions? I'll close the public hearing. Comments?
I just want to say Thank you to you, Jackie, and the team. Phenomenal budget as always. And I'm definitely in favor and I'm going to be voting for it.
Comment?
Welcome, and thank you for all of your hard work. We appreciate you guys. I know this is not tiny, so I appreciate it, and that you can explain it where I can understand it.
I just want to say I opened up this little packet here and I pointed out to the mayor, I was like, it said January 2021. And I thought, well, we didn't change this on the budget. And then
That's the word.
he pointed it out, and it was a distinguished budget presentation award. So that's quite impressive. Thank you very much. I just feel that being on the finance committee, that seeing everything that you guys go through to make sure that everything is in order for us, very transparent and very balanced. And I just want to say thank you. We don't have very many questions because you don't leave us room for any questions. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think echoing on those sentiments, but what I'd like to say to you, Jackie, is to me, humility is the sign of excellence in a leader. And so I appreciate your humble approach in thanking everybody involved. It really is a team effort, but I also want to recognize you and thank you for helping to manage that team and manage the process. Your humility does not go unnoticed, but I also appreciate the work that it takes from all of those involved, and knowing that the finance staff really takes all pieces of the puzzle and uses that to put together a cohesive, understandable, balanced budget really means a lot. So excellent job. Thank you.
Good.
I think it's all been said here before. So.
Everything's been said. Great job by you and by you guys on finance team. Everybody involved. All in favor. If there are no other comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 26-2021 and approve ordinance number 751-21 on first reading.
Second.
Motion is second to approve resolution number 26-2021, ordinance number 751-21 on first reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. And then, Jim, I'm okay with what you had asked earlier.
I see heads nodding.
I don't know if everybody
Likewise.
else-
I'm good with it.
I mean, if you can get somebody hired by the first.
We're going to start. Thank you, Council. I appreciate that. All departments appreciate that.
Next item was scratched, so we're on to reports. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to share a handout and then talk for a second about it.
Uh-oh.
Good. This is fun. So I had the privilege of attending a board meeting of North Range Behavioral Health, which is one of the main, if not the main, mental health nonprofit providers in certainly northern Colorado. And I've known for some time that our police chief, Rick Brandt, is one of the members of that board of directors. And I know that he's been, committed in that service. Of course, representing not only his own beliefs, but Evan's. So it's been good for us. But I was extra proud to go to this meeting because they were honoring Rick as North Range Behavioral Health's 2021 Outstanding Board Member nominee of all of their board. And they have some pretty impressive folks on their board. And I'll just point out that, the handout that I gave you is from that meeting. And it cites that Chief Brandt is a leader in creating strong links between behavioral health and law enforcement, leadership that is evident not only in our local communities, but also across the state. As Kim Collins, North Range Chief Clinical Officer, says, Chief Brandt is a change agent who saw the benefits and pushed for co-responder units before the idea took hold in Colorado. His early and energetic commitment to partner with us was a shining example to others. He has directly impacted the success of the program here and across the state. It has touched the lives of many. It also, cites Rick's leadership in the use of Narcan, which is a key tool in preventing deaths from opioids, and just his role on the board. So I just wanted to mention that in my report to the council. I do plan on sending you this handout electronically, but I thought I would just reinforce that tonight. So congratulations to Chief Brandt, and I know that all of the nominees from the member organizations will be considered by the Colorado Behavioral Health Care Council, which is a larger umbrella organization. So we can all be proud of Chief Brandt. I have one more, I think, item I wanted to mention. Just because it's, again, a good feeling to know that we're persevering through the odd times that we're in. We do have the full-scale trick-or-treat down the trail event planned for October 30th from 10 a.m. to noon at Riverside Park. And I'm proud to say no reservations required. You can just go and have fun. So I give our rec team, again, credit for doing as much as they can in as open a manner as we can here in Evans. So that's all I have tonight, Mayor.
City Attorney?
So we do have one issue that we'll talk about in the executive session tonight. Other than that, a couple of things on the horizon. The Fire District will be considering the Second Amendment at its meeting on October 27th, and you should see it on November 2nd. And then also at the next meeting, we'll provide you an update on some of the issues related to the wastewater treatment plant. That's all.
Next item on the agenda, audience participation. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address City Council on any item? So recess this meeting. We will come back to it. We're going to go to our